Hello, welcome. Let's talk Evolution. WWE's women's only pay-per-view. God, I have so many mixed thoughts and feelings about this show because of just the nature of it existing. As a women's only event, I'm fine with. The problem is how closely tied it is to the Saudi Arabia thing. Makes it, at least from the onset, at least in the build-up to this felt like WWE Consolation Prize for WWE Blood Money next week for the men's event. Because it legitimately felt the women can't be on the Saudi Arabia show, so let's give them their own fucking show. That's what it felt like. That said, it was a good fucking show. Really good. I'm going to run down the card and just give you my thoughts and impressions of them. I didn't see the pre-show. I think there was a match on it, but I don't know what it is, so I'm sorry if I missed something really good there. The show starts with a concert, or with the song from Nikki Haley of Hailstorm and someone else. I don't remember. I'm so sorry. And I normally like Nikki Haley, but this song just didn't seem to go that great to me, but who knows. But the first match of the show was the Nostalgia Act, basically. It was the feel-good match of the night. It was Trish Stratus and Lita. These are two legends. If you're not familiar with their product, these two were women's wrestling pioneers, as I guess they would call it, from the early 2000s. They were the first two women to main event the weekly show Main Event Raw with one of their matches. So they've got a lot of history together, and they're given legend status nowadays. They're really good. They haven't wrestled in a while, but they were really good back in the day, and the crowd still loves them. It was those two in a tag team versus Mickie James, which, interestingly, she has history with the other two because they all wrestled together around the same time period, early to mid 2000s. Mickie James, they all retired around the same time, but Mickie James came back. The other two haven't been back, so Mickie James is definitely much more in shape, much more experienced with the current crop of the division. Mickie James' tag partner was Alicia Fox. Originally it was going to be Alexa Bliss, but she got injured with a concussion, I believe. I mean, standard opening match, I suppose. I don't really know what you would expect from this. I know it was... How do I phrase this? This is what you would expect. You have two legends versus a heel that never wins, and someone who, someone who's the last minute replacement, basically. Alicia Fox isn't supposed to be here. She's not a good wrestler. She's never been pushed as a top talent. This is sort of a foregone conclusion. Trish and Lita were going to win. They're Nostalgia Acts. They're coming back for the women's only pay-per-view to give them a bit more respect for what they didn't necessarily get when they were still active in the company, when the women's matches, were fourth or fifth one down the card. But they had a decent match. For a tag match, Trish and Lita looked a lot better than they did back when they came back other times. Like for the Women's Royal Rumble, they looked in much better shape and performed a lot better now. The ending of the match was a bit weird. Trish hits one of her finishes, goes for the pin, and the ref counts 3, but he stops himself on the 3rd. The pin wasn't broken up. He just stops counting before 3, so the other tag partner can break the pin up. I don't know if there was a miscue there, or if the ref was counting quicker than they thought it was, but that should have been over. It didn't make a whole lot of difference, really, because they wrap it up in a couple more minutes. The same outcome. Instead of one finish, Trish hits her other finish. She hits the kick, gets the 3 count. Still a good match. Don't let the finish take away from you. It was a really solid match, and it's good to see them back. It really is. I always had a thing for Lita, the Punk thing, when she was with the Hardy Boys back in the day. That was for me. I really liked it. After that one, there was a promo backstage where they were interviewing Nikki Bella for the main event. Nikki plays a good fucking heel. I'm not the biggest fan of her wrestling talent, but she plays a good heel. The promo was really good. Moved from there into the women's Battle Royal match. 20 women, historic. They brought back Alundra Blaze for this shit. They brought back Molly Holly was in there. Ivory was in there. Plus the current crop of women. The Carmella dancing thing needs to fucking stop. I don't like it. It's stupid. It makes no sense. This was the SmackDown Women's Champion. What, 4 fucking months ago? 5 months ago? How do you slide so far to working with R-Truth and just doing random dancing? I don't get it. Carmella played a good heel in a division, in the SmackDown Women's division that needed heels. Why would you just randomly turn her? There's no reason for it. She just started being a good guy one day. I don't get it. I really don't. Because they did one of these segments in the middle of the match. You know, it's Battle Royal, so technically towards the middle, it slows down. People start catching breathers on the outside while there's main action in the middle. Carmella is in the middle with, I believe it's Ivory, one of the older ones. And they just do some fucking random dancing for a minute. I just don't like it. I don't think it needs to be there. As far as the Battle Royal goes, as far as the rest of it goes, it was pretty good. The final three, it came down to Ember Moon, Nia Jax, and Selena Vega. Nia Jax wins. She throws Ember Moon out after destroying her, which was a bit of a shame. I like Ember Moon. I think she should have won it. If there was ever a misutilized talent on the Raw roster, it's Ember Moon. She is fucking fantastic. But what you're gonna do? They have big things for Nia Jax. They seem to really like her big Hoss thing, which isn't a bad thing. It's something WWE is very familiar with booking around. I was just hoping they would have done something a little bit more with it. After that, you go to the Mae Young Classic finale. It is Toni Storm versus Io Shirai. If you're not familiar with Io Shirai, you are in for a goddamn treat. Go back and watch this match. She is... I mean, they're both really good, but Io in particular is fantastic. She's one of my favorite women out of Japan. She's really good. Up there with Asuka, with Kairi Sane. Like, she is that fucking talented. This match was what you would expect from the two of them. It was amazing. You can easily pull this out of Shimmer or out of Stardom from Japan, and it would have fit right in as a main event for either of those promotions as well. It was really good. In the end, Toni Storm hits her Tiger Driver, gets the pin, gets the 3, wins the tournament. Sorry, I'm having problems trying to organize my thoughts because there's so much that happens. It's such a good show. And this was a really good match. It really was. And Toni Storm was one of the runner-ups from last year. I think she came in... She was knocked out in the semifinals, I believe, last year. So for her to come back and win it this year is a really nice feel-good moment. She's an amazing wrestler. She looks talented. She's got the look that Vince McMahon likes even. So, you know, tan, blonde hair and all that. So if they sign her, she's got a lot of potential. If she goes to the NXT or something, I could see things happening with her. Moving on from the Mae Young Classic, there's a cooldown match, and it's the Job Squad versus Banks, Bayley, and Natalya. And this is another match where I don't really like it. I don't think it should have been on the show even. That should have been your pre-show match. If you're gonna keep this should have been your pre-show match because there's nothing of note to worth mentioning here. They brought back Sasha Banks after, you know, a couple months off for a minor injury, and they just have this nothing match. I legit have nothing interesting to say about it. Oh, there was this one spot where Banks hits a backstabber immediately into a Bayley to belly suplex, which was a really good spot. And they just have to drag her. They hit that on Ruby Riott. The pin gets broken up, and Ruby's partners have to like drag her limp body across the ring to make the tag, which I thought was a really interesting spot. But I mean, in the end, the faces won. Bayley and Banks, Natalya won. There was this nice like double sharpshooter spot in there as well. So there's a couple of good moments, I guess, but the match is pointless. It means nothing. It doesn't affect anything. It's a waste of story. It's a waste of good talent. Banks and Bayley there should be the tag titles, and they should have them by now, the women's tag titles, or they should be doing something else. They're too talented to be stuck in perpetuity. 3 years ago, they were main eventing fucking TakeOver Brooklyn, having the best match of the night, best women's match of the year. And now they're just stuck in throwaway tag matches. And they're better than that. They really are. After the throwaway tag match, there is the NXT Women's Championship. It's Shayna Baszler. It's Kairi Sane. And this is another just amazing match. As you can sort of expect, I could watch these two go at it all the time. They've had like 4 matches now. I think this would be the fifth one between them. And they're just so fucking good at it. Like, I cannot stress enough how well these two work together. Shane's high-flying technical abilities with the sheer brutality and like the real MMA sort of feeling from Shayna Baszler. It's just something about the two of them. They just mesh really well. And you can see it more of it here in this match. There was a bit of shenanigans on the outside. On ringside, Shayna Baszler had Jessamine Duke and another friend with her. If you're not familiar with that name, back in the UFC, when they were first introducing the women's division, as a lead up to it, there was the Ultimate Fighter. They had a division with all women for that season of the show. And Ronda Rousey was one of the coaches, and underneath it there were 4 women who formed a group of a stable. They called them the 4 Horsewomen at the time. Shayna Baszler, Jessamine Duke. I can't remember the other two now. I have this fucking season on DVD somewhere because I thought it was a really good season. The women there were really desperate, so it was. Sorry, this is getting an off tangent, but anyways, Shayna Baszler had her friends. She had a couple of the other 4 horsewomen from previous experience in the UFC. They were there at ringside, and when the fight got to ringside, and Shane and Baszler ran into that guardrail, one of them took a swing at Shane. Shane does a spinning back fist, knocks her out. They get on with the match. A couple minutes later, Shane's on the top rope going for one of her flying maneuvers. And another one gets on ringside to distract her. Gets caught again. They go for a couple more minutes, and coming up towards the finish, there is a scuffle in the ring. Kairi Sane gets pushed to the edge of the ring towards the ropes. The ref is distracted because of a near fall. So, they do the stupid thing. It's like 1, 2... It was a 2 count, and they turned the other direction for 3 minutes to tell the timekeeper it was a 2 count. It never happens during the rest of the match, but, during these convenient moments when there needs to be an interference, it's like, it was a 2. No one mistaking. It was a 2 count. Oh, what? Where did that chair shot come from? It's like the most obnoxious thing in the world. But it was one of those moments. They get the 2, the ref turns away to say it's a 2 count, and while Kairi Sane is pushed off into the ropes, Jessamine Duke just wails her, or knocks her the fuck out basically. She falls back onto Shayna Baszler, hooks her in the rear naked choke. I forget the name they're giving it, but coquina clutch, whatever the hell they're calling it for her. But she gets her in the chokehold, and instead of tapping out, she passes out, which I think is always a good finish. If you're gonna lock someone in a chokehold as a champion, I think that's a really good way to do it. You don't lose any credibility as a champion going out that way, especially with the amount of interference she had. I liked it. Shayna Baszler's the champion again. First 2-time women's champion in NXT. I'm interested to see what they do with this. If they continue the 4 horsewomen thing on, or if they're going to use that as a splinter to, propel her up to the main roster like they did with Asuka, where she went up as the champion, just surrendered the title. So, I don't know. I mean, they could drag this feud out more. You could have Kairi Sane have another match, or, have a series of matches between her and the couple that interfered. So, there's a couple ways to go with it. It'd be interesting to see how it works. Again, if this leads to another Kairi Sane and Shayna Baszler match, I'll be fine with it. No complaints whatsoever. This match is great. All their other matches were great. they can go at it again as far as I'm concerned. From the NXT Women's Championship is the SmackDown Women's Championship. This is Becky Lynch. This is Charlotte Flair, last woman standing. Excuse me. And his match was so good. This should have been the main event. It really should have. In my opinion, this was best match of the night. This had the best build-up. This had the longest feud. This had the best payoff. The characters that the fans responded to the most. This should have been the main event. But getting into the match itself, it was your typical last man standing affair. Lots of really annoying ref counting. In recent WWE, I've never got the purpose. If you go watch older last man standing matches, like Rock and Mick Foley from 2000 or 2001, I forget which, but from way back then, Rock and Mick Foley from 2000 Royal Rumble, they didn't count every time they got tripped over. 30 seconds into the match, Charlotte Flair gets scoop slammed, and they just count for that. She's up in 2 seconds. Like, this isn't anything at all. It's the start of the match. And the ref is counting. Why it just annoys me as a viewer that that's what the match is degraded to. Count when there's an actual spot, you know. Just not when they're on the ground and they bounce back up in a second. That early into the match, it just seems weird to me. But the match itself was really good. There was a lot of creative spots, a lot of face-off moments. There was a time early-ish, I guess. It was a long match. Just went almost 30 minutes. Early-ish into the match where they were both found themselves on opposite sides of the ring, and they just started chucking chairs into the ring. So at one point, there's like a dozen chairs from each woman in the ring. And eventually, they start whacking each other with the chairs. They pull out a kendo stick occasionally. At one point, the chairs get pushed into a pile, and they each take turns slamming or doing suplexes on top of those. It was a nice looking, painful sounding spot. They brought out a table. And the crowd went ballistic for it. The crowd always goes ballistic for tables. We want tables. I like tables. The table got used twice. The first table got used twice. I'm saying first there, so kind of give something away for later in the match. The first table got used twice because the first time it didn't break. Charlotte hits a spot, and the table doesn't break, and they have to go to the well again and do a separate spot to try and get it to break. And they were both good looking spots. It's not like she missed it or something. She hit them both dead square on. It's just for some reason the first time it didn't do anything. Then towards the closer towards the end, they also brought in a ladder for a couple of spots. And there was one really nice spot in there where Charlotte feeds Becky's legs through the ladder and locks her in the figure 4 and then does, the bridge thing for the figure 8 with Becky Lynch's legs stuck in the ladder. It was a really cool thing. And Lynch has to crawl across the ring to grab a chair, just like sort of overhead wail it to break the hold up, because she was already tapping out as, the heel that she is. You're going to tap to a submission like that. I don't like that she's a heel, in case you couldn't tell, but that's a different debate for another day. And actually, if you watch that spot back, you can see the ref sort of like nudging it closer to Becky Lynch, which I thought was an interesting spot. But it was a really good creative moment outside of the ref thing. Really good spot. The match was fantastic, and that was probably my favorite moment of it. Getting towards the end, they brought out another table, and Charlotte got greedy, basically. They did, actually, I should mention, they did announce table spot as well. And then after putting one of the competitors through it, they pile a bunch of junk on them, and the ref starts counting. They still get up at 9. Flabbergasted, for some reason. Then, like you would expect them to just stay down because an announcer chair, which is probably the lightest fucking chair. Like, these office chairs do not weigh a lot. Like, people seem stunned that someone can get out of them. Most of these don't weigh more than a steel folding chair does. Like, I don't know what you expect there. But moving on to the finish, it was another table spot. They set up a table on the outside. Charlotte goes up for a moonsault. Lynch gets underneath her and power bombs her off the rope into the table on the floor for the finish. 10 count. You could have counted to it. It was a brutal looking spot. It was an amazing way to finish. This isn't a gimmick match I normally like with WWE because of the obsessing counting and the bit of the anticlimactic sorts of finishes. But this was really good. Actually, the last couple this year, Styles Nakamura ending with the forearm dive spot was also really fucking good. Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, the finish to that one was also really creative. I like that as well. For, last person standing matches, WWE's been on fire with them, and this delivered. This might be my favorite of them because it was just so fucking good. Should have been your main event. Moving on to the main event, it is Ronda Rousey, Nikki Bella for the Raw Women's Championship. And despite my misgivings about this being the final match on the show, it was still a really good match. The build-up for this match had been taking place slowly overall. It was something I wasn't sold on the idea. I still am not a huge fan of the fact that Nikki Bella got the spot over someone more talented or someone more active on the roster. Up until the last couple months, Nikki Bella hasn't been on the roster. She's not a great wrestler even. She's mediocre at best. But this was, going back to what I said at the front of the show, this is the consolation prize. This is the PR stunt. So what do you do for that? You put your two most high-profile crossover stars, or however they want to define that, as your main event. Nikki Bella's got the reality TV thing. She's got the John Cena thing. And then obviously Ronda Rousey is massive on her own because of her ties to Hollywood and her UFC fame. So the two of them together as a big mainstream media sort of thing is the bet you would go with. I don't like the idea. If your goal was women's wrestling, you should have finished the show with women at the peak of their game. Your best wrestlers. You should put your best foot forwards. But that's just a different way of thinking about it. If your goal is the headline, this is the way to do it. And it was a good match. Don't get me wrong. I wasn't expecting a whole lot out of Nikki Bella, but Ronda Rousey is really good, which kind of surprised me too, but it should stop surprising people at this point. She's had 3 or 4 main roster main event matches now, going back to WrestleMania, and they've all been exceptional. She's really stood out for someone who's just a rookie. It's almost like Kurt Angle. She's picked up the business so fucking quickly in the short amount of time she's been in it. It's just kind of stunning to sit there and think about, to go back and watch it. But she's really good, and this match absolutely delivered. They did a bunch of creative spots. Obviously, the Bellas are a unit, so the second one got in there. There was some interference in there as well. But they fought through it. She fought through it, and they put on a good match, a really good match. The finish for it, there was a couple of spots. It's one of these, the last 3 in particular, I recommend you see. All 3 of the championship matches delivered in the capacity that you would expect them to deliver to. But the finish for the Raw's women match, they were up on the top rope. It looked like Nikki was trying to do a rack attack or something. She was setting up for a top rope move. Ronda counters out of it and does the there's a technical term for it in judo, to where you jump up and you pull them down and into a roll, so you're on top of them. I don't know the term in judo or in wrestling. It's a spot you kind of have to see to really get the understanding of it. But she does the takedown off the top rope, holds onto the arm, drags Nikki Bella to the center of the ring, right in front of the hard cam. Like, Ronda seems like she's been doing this forever. It's just, that's a spot you take forever to teach a new person. Camera. Do any big spot facing the fucking camera, you know? And that's what she does. She drags her straight to the camera, straight to the center of the ring, stares at the camera, locks on the armbar, and that's it. And it was a really good finish. I liked it. I really did. The show ends. There's no shenanigans or chicanery after the fact. Raises her title, celebrates with the fans. They do a nice big feel good. This is the women's division promo video package, you know, and they can deliver. The pay-per-view as a whole is a good pay-per-view. If you're gonna go like, you know, A to B, this would be a solid. This would be an A. This would be a great show. The exception of the throwaway tag match, which still had its own creative couple of spots. All the matches were exceptional or better. You know, they were all good. They were all good plus. I legitimately can't think of too many bad things to say about that show. I mean, there were a couple of botches, but this is the type of show that we should put on more often. Not just all women, just good show. A good wrestling show. You don't overbloat the show. You don't push it past 3-4 hours if you don't need to. The matches have their time. The storylines feel developed. There's not a massive amount of overcomplicating things. There's not a massive amount of overbooking things. There's just good, solid wrestling with solid stories, solid characters that the people can understand. You don't need all that extra shit every single show. It's a nice add-on, but like on this show, there was one stipulation match. It was the last man standing match, which is a culmination of like, you know, a 4-month feud or something since SummerSlam. This is what they should do, because this was a good show. I love this show. They need to do more of this type of show. I don't know if it's all wrestling or if it's the main roster, or if it's all women. I don't know why this is different from the shows that they've been putting on recently. Stuff like Hell in a Cell, like Super Showdown, like what Crown Jewel's shaping up to be. This was a good show. If you at all like wrestling, you should see this show. If you would all care for the women on WWE, you need to see this show. It was really, really fucking good. I can't stress that enough. Every match was good to great. The last man standing match was phenomenal. It went the time length it should have. The Raw women's title match was also really good. Delivered way above what people would have expected from Nikki Bella, who is mediocre to good. She's not great. And Ronda, who's still a rookie, has been put on consistently good matches. They had a really, really good, almost great match. Just top to bottom. It's an amazing show. Go watch it. But that's it for me for Evolution. I liked it. Again, if I'm gonna grade it, this gets an A. If I'm doing, a star scale, this is, like a 4.5 show, 4-star show. If you're doing 1 to 10, this is a 9. There's no one match that I would say this is match of the year, because this has been a solid year for wrestling. But they're all great matches. There wasn't a bad match on the show. So, go check it out. Moving on from that, I won't be doing Crown Jewel because I think the show is disgusting. I think it's essentially just fucking WWE blood money. Saudi Arabia said, give us a bunch of money, or we'll give you a bunch of money. You come do wrestling here. At the expense of everything else. I think Saudi Arabia is an awful country. I don't think you should be supporting the government after the shit that they've done. Even like the small things, like not allowing the women on their show. Sami Zayn got pulled from the last show. Fucking Finn Balor can't wear his pride shit at the show. I don't know why. Oh, I do know why. There's money. WWE is a soulless corporation whose sole responsibility is money. I mean, that's fine. And I still have a network subscription. I still watch this show because I still like wrestling, but, in my small way, I'm not going to be watching Crown Jewel. I'm not going to contribute to that train wreck of a fucking country. Regardless of the card that they built, but not doing that. Also, I'm looking for a co-host or a partner or something. Someone else that can stand here, or, I can throw their webcam image here. We can have a bit of a discussion. There'll be a bit more back and forth than just me rambling into a camera for 30 minutes. Because if you haven't noticed, I'm actually kind of bad at this. Keep looking in other directions. I keep stopping. There's odd pauses once in a while to gather my thoughts. So I'm looking for someone else. So if you're interested in it, if you watch these shows live, if you like wrestling, or if you know someone who does, send me the information. I'd love to check it out and maybe we can get something working. But that'll be it. Thanks for checking me out. I love you. And we'll see you next month.